Have you been spending your time checking and unchecking boxes? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're
Have
talking
you seen
about.
this?
No.
It's a new game that is all the rage. Some person created 1 million check boxes you go to a web page. I think it's called 1millioncheckboxes.com.
Okay.
And there are people checking, and not like the whole goal is to check all the 1 million check boxes, but there's other people coming in unchecking the check boxes. I'm not kidding. This is the craziest thing. Actually, you have to see this because it's let's see if I can bring it up here on screen here if we can get that. Here we go. Look at this. There it is. So there are people right now checking and unchecking all these boxes, and they just randomly are. These are people like live. I know people. I'm sorry. This is a horrible podcast right now.
Right.
But I'm amazed. There's 771,000 boxes checked, and then it's going back and forth, and everybody's trying to either check or uncheck all the boxes. I thought this was your thing. I really thought this was you.
No, we have reached idiocracy. We truly have reached idiocracy in the world. I fear for the future of our planet.
Okay, but after this podcast, I'm getting right on this. And
there you go.
I'm gonna check me some boxes.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well. Let this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 435 for Friday, July 5th. Happy Independence Day, America, 2024. And with me, as always, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who would not have drafted Bronny, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
I didn't even know you knew about the NBA draft.
Of course I do. I mean,
well, LA,
Los Angeles, and of course, because this was all for those of you who aren't following the NBA, LeBron James's son, Bronny. I mean, I'm not even going to go down and rant on that.
but
stop okay,
that's his name. Would you stop it?
Okay, sorry. Anyway. All I can think of is what's the pony thing, like they're called
My Little Pony,
and they're called something, like they're called bronies or something, I think.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Anyway,
jabroni. That's what it is.
All right, we've already gone off the rails, folks. But anyway, yes, the LA Lakers, due to some, unstated but sort of understood pressure that came from LeBron James, have drafted his son, Bronny, and it will be the first time in NBA history that father and son will theoretically play on the same team. If he
makes it on the team, if Bronny makes it on the team, because there's no, he probably will, but actually,
he'll make the team, but he'll probably make the team, but will he play? That's the question.
That's true. And we're recording this on the 3rd, and literally minutes ago, LeBron signed a 2-year deal with the Lakers,
of course,
for $104 million for 2 years.
I mean, that's just
because the Lakers, they fulfilled their side of the bargain.
That's right. Yeah, they did.
Or the deal, whatever. By now here's now whatever you can call it, nepotism, and you can call lots of things.
You can and you should.
and before, and then a lot of people might not know the story, but Bronny actually had a heart attack. Last year, and they it was very concerned. But before that happened, he was one of the top prospects in high school prospects coming out, and would have gotten a higher draft choice, I'm assuming, but still went to USC, didn't really perform.
Yeah, there's
so a lot of questions with Bronny's play, and I can't imagine the pressure that's on this kid.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, that's my thing, is that I think it's unfair to the kid to basically sit him up on this platform artificially, because he wasn't that great at USC, despite his ailments, and I just don't think it's fair to the kid to throw him into this thing and expect him, to play at a professional level, where, I mean, the critique is not going to be kind. Let's put it that way. I mean, you look at Caitlin Clark, what Caitlin Clark's going through right now in terms of, her entry into the WNBA and the critiques that have come and all of that. It's just a different, when you get to professional sports, that level, the critique becomes just a lot harsher.
Well, I mean, but it's different in this case because Bronny's undersized. I think he's under 6'2", even though he's listed as 6'4". He has trouble defending taller players. He's got some big issues with his jump shot. I mean, there's a lot of questions that are happening, and he just happens to be the son of one of the greatest basketball players to ever live.
Of all time.
So
yeah, exactly.
Of all time. But more important things, did you watch the debate? That's what everyone wants to know.
Oh my God.
First of all, I got to tell you, I didn't watch it. Haven't watched one clip. Haven't watched anything. I saw a picture of them together.
I turned it on and I made a bet with myself. I said, I'm going to watch the first 5 minutes and I will tell you what's going to happen after watching the first 5 minutes. And I was unfortunately, absolutely right. I mean, it wasn't 3 minutes in that you knew that this was going to be a total shit show. I mean, it was just not. I mean,
Wait,
look,
did you watch more than 30 minutes or watch more than 5 minutes?
I watched 5 minutes, but at 3 minutes in, I knew. I mean, I didn't need 5 minutes, right? Oh. And turned it off. I turned it off and walked away. Yeah, I turned it off and walked away because I just knew it was going to be horrific. And what's weird purely from a marketing perspective, which is, let's be honest, that's what debates are in the modern world. They're not debates. They're marketing, speeches basically. And then they have, they do them side by side. My biggest problem was not Biden's, sort of definitely Sleepy Joe sort of performance. Literally Sleepy Joe. I mean, it's coming out now that he was so tired that felt like he was going to fall asleep on stage. And that was clear. Nor was it Trump doing Trump. I mean, I don't know what anybody expected, but he came out and did exactly what he's done every single time. I mean, it's like if you were to predict what was going to happen, he did exactly what would be predicted. Okay. My problem was the stupid moderators of that debate just sat there like bumps on a log. I mean, it was absolutely pitiful, the moderation of that debate. I mean, just absolutely awful. Just horrible. Just like amateur hour. It's like you could have gotten 2 kids off the street to do better moderation of that debate than those 2 did.
Well, luckily I didn't spend any mental energy watching this, but I have read a lot on it, which is generally what I do. And I have done this with all debates since the first one where I was crying in my sleep.
Yeah.
And I've since just, let me read to see what's going on. I still don't understand why President Biden decided to do this, because there was literally no upside, in my opinion, the only downside.
100%.
And so the odds, if you look at any of the Vegas boards that are out there, I think there's a 55% chance that Biden will now drop out of the race.
Because I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah,
I think it has to happen. And I'm not. By the way, this is not like a political take on this at all. From what I can tell right now, you're pretty much assured that you're going to have Trump as your president unless Biden drops out. I think that's going to happen. And
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I mean, that's the numbers are saying. Numbers right now, 70% to Trump, chances to win. I know it's a long way to go, but what are we going to see this changing?
But that's I mean, first of all, we're a long way off from the election. And 2, polls and Vegas lines are not elections.
I trust Vegas lines more than 538 these days.
Well, that's basically the same. Vegas lines and 538 are ostensibly the same thing. They're the same thing.
It's possible, but when you now have the leaders of the Democratic Party coming out and saying,
well, I mean, that's the problem.
That's the change.
Yes, that's the problem.
So nothing changed. Everybody. So your expectations, I get Trump, I get Sleepy Joe, whatever the case is. But now you have a group of people who have been behind Joe Biden, of course, 100%. Now they're not. Now they're like, well, I think for the good of the United States, and so what'll happen is, let's just play this out a second. Let's say that Joe Biden loses and Trump wins. Joe Biden, everything that you think he did or did not do in his first term will be null and void, because he's the one that let this happen. Another term happen for Trump, because he's not American enough to back out and say, I had my time. I mean, come on. The guy should be out golfing or enjoying his grandkids or something right now. I don't want to be ageist about it, but there's obviously some issues there.
Yeah, you think? Yeah, I mean,
Come on,
there's definitely.
Come on, man. I'm not going to vote for my mom or dad. I'm not. I mean, it's just not a thing.
Yeah.
They should have. What's the age? 35. The age you can run for president.
Correct. Yes.
So they 35. Should have it. They should have a high. I think it should be 35 to 70.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. That's an interesting. Yeah. I mean, look. I don't. If this were any normal sort of situation, I would say it is absolutely a done deal. You gotta get somebody new in there, but this is not a normal situation where, I mean, there's anyway. We'll get off on a.
So back to the marketing,
change the nature of the show. Exactly.
The idea of the debate as marketing. You're absolutely right. The marketing goals of the Democratic Party, not really sure what those were.
That's right. That was my original point, is that
only downside there.
From a purely marketing standpoint, what I'm most angry at is that the marketing of this, the campaign, I'm most disturbed with the campaign comms professionals who are theoretically great strategists at marketing and campaigning would allow this to happen. This was either, at the best case, a huge swing and a miss, or two, just complete malpractice.
Remember when Elon Musk decided to hire CEO Linda Yaccarino? Remember when that happened?
Yeah,
and then she was going out on like the tour, doing speaking engagements and whatever.
Yep.
See, that's a similar thing. She couldn't really say anything. She was adding no value. So why were they putting her out there to do this tour like there actually was a CEO, when she wasn't really allowed to speak on anything anyways, and it turned out very negative? It'd have been better if she didn't do it at all. And I think this is a similar case.
It's 100%. And what I was, so it's a fascinating thing, because there's also some reading you can do on this, and you can go read the transcripts, right? So if you literally read the transcripts of the debate, what you would have thought in your head was that you basically had two candidates, one of whom was spewing out nothing but bravado and lies about his accomplishments, which didn't get called or checked at all. And then the other who was spewing out such granular statistics that it made your head spin, right? And so clearly when he was coached for the debate, when he was prepped for this debate in terms of the message that they wanted to come across, it's very clear to me that they were basically saying, ignore what he's saying. Don't get into a conversation with him. Ignore everything he said. All you want to do is spew out accomplishments. Basically, get geeky and wonky about it. And that's what basically threw him off. If you read that, it's 2 million there and 5 billion here and 17 billion here and 25 billion. I mean, he's just chock-a-block with statistics about the accomplishments that they've had, ignoring everything that Trump is saying. And all of those facts and figures just got lost, as they would in just about anybody's head, but certainly in someone that is as old as he is. Yeah. And he just got lost. And it's just a shame that it was the wrong strategy for even a young candidate, not necessarily the wrong strategy or not even, the fact that it was a wrong strategy for Biden. It's just the marketing behind this is just so bad. It's just I can't get my hands around it.
I
Really.
know, it's so crazy. Like when I used to teach public speaking, I taught 4 semesters of public speaking at Penn State, and we would talk about, I hate to say this, but it's not what you say normally, it's how you say it.
Correct.
That's going to persuade.
That's right.
It is 90% of what you communicate is nonverbal.
That's right.
And so it didn't really matter what they said.
Yep.
It was all like, this person looks like they still have their faculties and this person doesn't.
All he needed to do was come out in his Ray-Ban shades and just sit there and let Trump run, let Trump be Trump, right? And just sit there and every now and again go, come on, man. I mean, this is ridiculous. And basically go, are you going to fact check this guy? I mean, that's all he needed to do. He just needed to come out with some attitude and basically not have to have a lot of facts and figures. Exactly. I mean, anyway, get off.
Anyways, you got, okay. So you had a great birthday. I
had a lovely birthday. Thank you.
Yes, that was awesome.
Had a great birthday. Yeah.
And then we're going to try to, going to try to do a shorter episode here.
We're going to we're trying to, given that it's a holiday weekend and you're all busy and you're hopefully getting away from screens and podcasts and business and marketing and all that kind of stuff, we're going to do a shorter show. And we'd love your feedback on that, by the way. We're going to do a shorter show today and sort of see where that is. See if it feels better. If it feels better, we'll do shorter shows. If it doesn't, we're going to, we'll go back to being, long-winded and sort of, never shutting up. But
maybe they want a longer show. Maybe that's what everybody wants.
I doubt that.
Said no one ever.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right.
Anyway, so we got a good show. We had a good show, and we'll get to it here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court seems to be just spewing out decisions left and right that also bear a whole show's worth of discussion. But the one we'll talk about, of course, here is that the Supreme Court has now sent the state efforts to censor or thinking about censoring social media back to the lower courts. We'll talk a little bit about what that means for social media professionals. And then we'll talk about the new rules of advertising and marketing as is proposed by Fast Company. Some interesting discussions there to talk about what's going on in marketing and advertising in 2024 and mid 2024. Then we're going to jump right to our rants and raves, where Joe and I will go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave. And I am going to talk about a silly panel discussion that I want my 45 minutes back from Khan about creativity and research therein. And there we go. Yeah, and then you're going to talk about mxmtoon.
mxm
dude.
Just whatever. I'll explain it. I'm explain
old.
It. You're so old.
I'm old.
I'm going to call you Biden.
There it is. Oh my God. I was going to do an impression, but no, I'm not going to do it.
Put your Ray-Bans on.
Yeah, there you go. All right. We're going to jump to our first story here, which comes to us courtesy of PBS. Although just any number of media outlets are doing this, although PBS was the first one I found that didn't have a stupid firewall in front of it. So there you go. The headline here is Supreme Court sends state efforts to regulate social media platforms back to the lower courts. The article opens up by saying the Supreme Court on Monday kept a hold on efforts in Texas and Florida to limit how Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube, and other social media platforms regulate content posted by their users. Have we all noticed, by the way, that they've just now said they're saying X, they're no longer saying formerly known as Twitter, which I'm a fan of, by the way. Anyway, while the details vary, both laws aim to address conservative complaints that the social media companies were liberal-leaning and censored users based on their viewpoints, especially on the political right. The cases are among several this term in which the justices are wrestling. Are they really wrestling? I don't know that they're wrestling all that much with standards for free speech in the digital age. The Florida and Texas laws were signed by Republican governors in the months following decisions by Facebook and Twitter, now X, there you go, to then cut.
Well, they had to do that.
They had to do that, I suppose.
It happened in the past.
Yeah, I guess. Donald Trump over his post related to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by his supporters. The article goes on to talk about how the governor signed this law, and then the Biden administration basically sided with the challengers who thought this was a bunch of malarkey, to pull a Biden-esque term there. What say you? What do you think about it? This is fascinating to me in concert with the decision last week about social media and the government's right to basically say, hey, take off misinformation. And now this decision, which basically says, yeah, the lower courts need to decide this. We're not deciding this. What do you think?
Well, I think from what I can tell from some of the reaction, they're just two dumb cases.
That's right.
They're silly, and so because they're so silly, and there's not a lot of really good evidence behind them, the justices can come back and say, "We need more information. Go send it back." That's really what from what I can read, that's what they said.
Yeah.
And what it means ongoing is that these are platforms where they can do whatever they want to do because they're private companies. It's just it's so weird what groups get behind, because if you're a conservative, you really want private companies to be able to dictate their own businesses. That's a conservative philosophy.
That's right.
But not if they say things, certain things about certain conservatives. It's just so what I mean, are you going to go to Fox News and say, "Oh, well, you need more liberal leaning information on Fox News"? You're not. They're not going to do that. You're not going to do it on X. You're not going to do it on Facebook, whatever. So
yeah, well, I think
expected.
And one of the judges, I think, said it best, and I can't remember. I read this somewhere, and so I'm having a tough time in my head sourcing it. But one of the justices, I believe, basically said, "Look, the platforms, the content editorial there is speech. In other words, if you believe in free speech, then the platforms have the right to say whatever they want, right? It is their platforms, after all. It is their speech. So they can not say whatever they want to. It's like you can't force them to say things that you want said only because they can't, in a similar way, they can't come to you and say, oh, just to your point, they can't go to Fox News and say, whoa, by the way, you need to talk more about the liberal or progressive point of view because honestly, you're just too balanced the other way. And we need, I mean, it's free speech is free speech. It is not balanced speech. And so they are allowed to have a point of view and an opinion. And that's, I think, what in many ways, what the court was saying by throwing it down and basically going, look, this doesn't even merit, a hear there.
Why is the Supreme Court so busy these days? I've never in my life seen a time where there's been so many cases being. Is it just because they're more political these days?
Yes, it's typical. There are typically this number of things on the docket. It's
exhausting.
Somebody who really knows the court may correct us here, but I don't believe there are any more or less judgments. This is just the season, right? This is what we're in now. So April, May, June, July is typically the season for this because they take up court cases in October, and sort of this is the season when all the judgments start to come down and will come down until they're done, right? Their session, I believe, is done soon, and so it's and then they pick back up in October again.
Jeez, yeah, it's just the whole thing is exhausting to me every day. There's something that's being addressed that just
there's a whole. I mean, now there is sort of the number of things that are going sideways from it. Yeah, again, depending on your point of view, which I mean, it's really, I struggle with this from looking at this purely from a nonpartisan point of view. You go, wow, this is neither originalist thinking, nor is it progressive thinking, nor is it evolutionary thinking. It is just purely partisan thinking. And the courts sort of take now, which seems to be everything needs to come through them, with the last few decisions, sort of like, now we're the ones who determine. It's like, it's a weird time. It's a very, very weird time.
I think the government powers between the different branches seems to be in flux right now.
They are really concentrating focused power, right? They're focusing power for the executive branch. They're focusing power on the judicial branch, and not a lot of focus on the legislative branch. They're basically daring. They're basically daring there's now, from what I've heard, there are Congress people who are introducing new legislation to deal with some of these decisions because of the the way I understand it is the Supreme Court, if they basically establish something as constitutional, that really can't be changed, right? That it's really, 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 really almost impossible to get that changed. But if they interpret an existing law and basically throw out an interpretation of what a law means, then that can be changed because you can change the law. So there are some of these decisions where you could literally change the law and actually establish something clearer. And it seems like they're daring the Congress to do exactly that.
Well, it's great news because I wanted Clarence Thomas to have more say in our lives. Is really what I was going for.
Yeah. All right. And with that,
yes, and with that,
let's. What we should do is we should do like Clarence Thomas does, and we should have some of our benefactors pay our bills.
Welcome to another day trying to grow your business. Look at all these tabs. So many tabs you can't keep tabs on them. Tools for this, programs for that, and systems to manage your systems. Now jump from a leads thing to a ticketing thing to a reporting thing so you barely have time for anything, like actually growing your business. But there's a better way. With HubSpot, you can increase quality leads, scale your customer service, and close more deals all in one place. It'll be the most productive day ever, and that's why we use HubSpot. Get started at HubSpot.com.
You ever noticed how the smallest changes can have the biggest impact? Well, if that's got you intrigued, let me give you a nudge. Yeah, that's right, Nudge, a podcast. On Nudge, hosted by Phil Agnew, you learn simple, evidence-backed tips to help you kick bad habits, get a raise, and grow a business. Every bite-sized 20-minute show comes packed with practical advice from admired entrepreneurs and behavioral scientists. Nudge is fast-paced, but still insightful with real-world examples that you can apply. Oh, and it's the UK's fastest-growing business podcast. Get Nudge wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
You did a great job on that HubSpot ad. That that was just
they are
brilliant.
So so the audio is theirs. Clearly, the audio is theirs. They sent us the production of the audio there. And then I couldn't help myself. I had to put the video on there. That is obviously the stock video.
Looks like John Mulaney almost.
It's always made me laugh. I downloaded it like years ago for something else, and so I used it for that. It's just silly. It's just silly.
It's very nice.
It fits.
Everybody will appreciate that.
It fits.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody
especially from
exactly.
HubSpot, they're gonna really appreciate that.
I'm sure.
Your hard work on that. All right.
I'm sure. All right, let's move to our next story here, which we're going to cover, which is about the brand new rules. I guess see what they did there, Fast Company. The brand new rules. See that? I don't even know if they realized they did that, but anyway.
I think they did.
You think so? You think
I
they
do.
realized? You think the editor was very proud of themselves?
Yes.
With that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, the article opens up by saying, in 2011, the Conline International Advertising Festival changed its name to the Conline International Festival of Creativity due to, according to organizers, the evolution of the industry. That's right. The traditional definition of advertising didn't apply anymore, justifiably so at the time. This year marks the 13th year since then, and it happens to be one full 12-year zodiac cycle. I just...
Would you stop it?
You're
making fun of this while you're reading.
Anyway, as I do. As one does, right? Okay. So they come up with these new rules. There's the new rules, according to Fast Company here, that I thought would be fun for us to talk a little bit about, that they say the new rules of marketing and advertising. So one of them is from people story to product story, basically telling that in the old world, they say, capitalized old world, brands used to tell brand stories to connect with their audience emotionally. A dozen years ago, as mobile and social media took a strong foothold, brand stories shifted to people stories, talking about themselves. And now they're saying brand storytelling is shifting again, but this time toward product stories. And then the second rule is now from emotional connection to trusted differentiation. This one I actually kind of like. They talk about trust there and how consumer brands now tap influencers and creators to develop trust. Then rule number 3 is from brand ecosystem to brand universe. Okay. I like that one.
I didn't really, it was interesting.
We'll talk about it. And then basically rule number 4 is the scalable model to repeatable system. Yeah. So, okay. So first of all, what did you think about the rules, and did any of them jump out to you as either completely right or completely wrong, or
Well, I
any of
like
those kinds of things?
yeah, I like there's two things I liked in here.
Yeah.
I like the trusted differentiation like you, and they use an example of Yeti having their expertise in differentiation in specific outdoor areas. And I
Yeah.
remember we covered on this show where Yeti went into fishing and hunting in the different areas, and they would do shows, and I think they still do shows in those areas to become like show themselves as the trusted expert, and that's worked really well. So I sort of believe in that, and that goes hand in hand with the last one where they're talking about repeatable systems. But basically it says instead of showing, basically they're saying instead of doing a campaign, you need to show up every day, you need to show up consistently over a long period of time, and I agree with that as well.
Yes.
So I don't know if they said it. I think some of the terms in here were kind of like, what are you saying? Like, what is this really talking? But I do actually agree with a lot of this in here. I guess my question to you is this almost, are they almost saying that content marketing is a feature where marketing has sort of subsumed all of this as part of itself now? Have you,
Well, one of the reasons that I picked this article was because so from a backbone or from a through line, I don't even know that they recognized it sort of. I mean, clearly they didn't mention that as sort of the through line of what, they didn't bring all four rules together and say, what's the overarching
yeah, what is this
evolution
meant?
here, right?
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They just sort of pulled apart these four rules, which ostensibly, I think to your point, are all saying basically the same thing, which, I mean, I said it on the stage at Content Marketing World last year, and I've been sort of evangelizing it, is that just exactly your point. You and this, I said this directly on stage in 23, you and me specifically in 2012, 2013, I can remember you and I were standing around a pool table, and we were saying to ourselves, this content marketing thing, right? We were like, well, I think content marketing at some point goes away, right? It sort of fades into sort of just an approach of overall marketing. And I think the switch that we didn't anticipate, and yeah, we're biased, and yeah, we have a horse in that race, and yeah, all of that. But I truly believe now that marketing has become content marketing, right? What we would classically call content marketing, always on, developing value, developing an ecosystem of things where not just customers, but audiences want to stay and live and get expert advice and trust and develop relationships with, which is at the core of everything we evangelized in the early days of content marketing. And from a strategy level, from a business strategy level, not from a tactical blogging, sort of social media way, but as a strategic value of marketing was, how do we deliver value through a voice, through what Don Schultz would sit there and lecture to you and I in a hotel room saying, it is about the only thing that they can't copy is the way and what you say, right? With the things that you say. And so all of that to me feels very much like the through line here. I quibble a little bit with, some of the ways that they put this, people stories versus product stories. And it becomes much more of to me, if that feeling becomes much more of this is the brand and the relationship that you have with the brand, which is much wider than how you use the product, right? And I always use the example of Amazon, right? Amazon Prime is a core product that is built to be unprofitable because it's a way that you have a relationship with Amazon that goes beyond just free shipping. Yeah. So is that a product story? No, it's really a brand story. But is it a people story? Yeah, I would argue that it is, because it's about the customer and customer experience. But, I mean, we can quibble about terms and whatnot. Anyway, that was my take on sort of the overarching feel of the article, even if I quibble with some of the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Repeatable stories that are outside the products and services we offer, related to but outside, not directly.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a good one on. I actually really like the Heinz ketchup one, which is worth everybody. If you get a chance, go to the link.
Yeah.
And Heinz did the whole thing where people were refilling Heinz bottles with other ketchup, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got to report this." It was actually kind of cute the way that they did that, and they actually developed new business from it. But outside of that, I mean, most of what we're doing is it's like, hey, our customers can't use our product and service all hours of the day, but we can deliver value outside those products and services. And how do we do that?
That's right.
In essence, that's content marketing. So
that's it. That's it.
Interesting. No, I thought that there's a lot of value in this, even though you're mocking the writing of this.
A little bit. But that's what I do. It's my job. I mean, when they belabor metaphors like that, it's like in the old world, in a time when marketing was talking about product, we needed a superhero. Okay.
God.
Okay. Let's move on to our rants and raves, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like we've just drafted Bronny, or something like we've just drafted Bronny. Okay. Do you want to go first with your rave here?
Yes. So here's something that you will know nothing about because it's a singer songwriter named mxmtoon. And I listened to her perform before the AJR concert. I told you beforehand, AJR concert, I absolutely loved it. They put a lot of energy and a lot of storytelling and a lot of effects into their show. And it's funny because I saw somebody was asking me, okay, can you compare Dave Matthews Band and AJR? First of all, you can't. Two totally different things. But Dave Matthews Band, what do? They just go out and play music.
Yeah.
That's it. And you know what? Everybody there was happy.
Yeah.
And you go to AJR and they're telling stories. There's videos. There's lots of things going on. They're in the audience. They're going crazy at AJR. That's their show. And obviously everybody loved that. But right before AJR, there was a woman performing, 23-year-old woman named mxmtoon. Great singer. She plays the ukulele. It's fantastic. And it's funny. There's one part where everyone just spontaneously started to take their cell phone light and go back and forth. And the whole group, and you could see this was her first arena tour. She'd never done a tour this big before. And she was tearing up on stage. So you're watching her get emotional, watching the audience. I'd never seen something like that before. It was pretty incredible. That said, of course, I had to how did mxmtoon get on stage? How did this whole thing happen? What I found out is that since I think 2017, 2018, she has spent much of her time collaborating with other artists over and over again, including Carly Rae Jepsen and Boy with Uke, who you don't know that performer either, and Peachy, and you don't know that performer, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that when you go to her playlist, most of her songs are collaborations with other people. And that has been the reason why, in a lot of cases, she became popular enough to be chosen to be the intro for AJR. And I thought that this was a great lesson. I had a lot of conversations at CEX with a lot of content entrepreneurs, and they're struggling and they're doing all this stuff by themselves. They're doing their e-newsletter by themselves, their podcast by themselves, their book by themselves, which is fine. But if you and I go back to kind of the way we got our start, we wrote Managing Content Marketing together, although you did the heavy lifting on that, Killing Marketing. We obviously this podcast, the two of us, I got my start writing a book with Newt Barrett called Get Content, Get Customers, doing the research projects with Ann Hanley and Marketing Profs. The collaboration makes a difference. You get a new audience,
100%,
and you get some amazing content. And I think in a lot of cases, we need to take a little bit out of the playbook of a lot of these musicians like mxmtoon, where collaboration needs to be part of the strategy and not just, oh, let's do this. I think we need to think more strategically about that. She's done that. She's going to be huge, I think. So I really appreciate her music and her talent, and the collaborations is what got her there.
Do you understand all of this because of your kids?
You mean the collaborations or the AJR?
No. The bands, the artists. Do you get educated by your kids? Is that how you learn about this?
Absolutely. I would not. There's no way that I probably would know AJR outside of the fact that they're on a Wendy's ad. I would never have known about them until my oldest turned me on to AJR.
All
and
right,
said,
so
oh, you gotta
here's
listen to these three brothers and Garage. And they did
I
the whole
would-
thing. Yeah.
I would love to assign whichever of your boys does this, if it's maybe both of them,
Yeah.
a homework assignment, which is to send Mr. Robert a list of the bands that I need to be paying attention to, because I would love to know who that is. Who should I be paying attention to? Knowing, and they know my musical taste, right? 80s music, I love, classic 80s rock. I love classic 80s music, and I love so much of 70s music. And I mean, I'm a huge music fan, obviously, but I would love to know who I should pay attention to.
Okay, well, you're gonna get you get two very different styles.
That's
You get
fantastic.
a lot
That's
of
even
hip hop
better.
and rap in one, and you're gonna get a lot of.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's good.
The one thing that I absolutely will do that. It'll probably be an education for me as well. The one thing that it's really interesting with the lyrics of like an mxmtoon or an AJR, they're almost all self-deprecating. It's very negative to positive. It's like,
That's
why am
interesting.
why am I going wrong? Why am I so
Right.
depressed? Why?
Yeah.
But then they try to take that a positive spin, but that's so different than when we grew up, where with the hair bands and
Oh, sure. It was all positive. It was
all
100%.
positive.
It was all bravado.
So I just
basically, it was all bravado.
I just think that's. I mean, if you look at AJR,
except for the emo 80s stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AJR song is their popular songs is "I'm a Mess," "I'm Weak." I mean, these are their popular songs.
Nice.
2085 is about dying. It's really interesting.
All right.
But anyways, that's my rave.
I like
my
it.
rave.
I love it. I love it, and I love being introduced to new music, and I can't wait to hear. Okay. I have a quick rant. We'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go, I don't know, waste your time watching a panel discussion. It's the most con of panel discussions it's the most conny of all con things. If you're watching the video, you can see the screenshot from it. All the panelists are in shades, and they're in their fantastic South of France beachwear, and it's like, oh God. I already know I'm going to hate this, but basically it's a panel discussion about creativity, and the panelists are from Meta, Kantar, and I believe something X. I forget exactly who.
Creative X.
Thank you.
It was on the Vayner X yacht.
Yes,
that's what this says.
There you
so
go.
that's already not a good look.
Already.
Yeah.
So con. Anyway, so the panel discussion is about this research that they've done, that ostensibly Meta did with Kantar and Creative X. This research on creativity, where they ostensibly the point of view of the research is, or the hypothesis was, creativity is back, and you can now reduce that down to the research of saying, here are the elements of the creative process that need to be present in advertising and creative marketing, that will work, that will basically prove effectiveness, which I'm always skeptical about going in. Anytime you try and reduce creativity down to, some of their, it's like you just read some of the findings of this research, such as a human connection is important and will drive effective advertising. Oh, great. Okay. That kind of flies in the face of the whole product story versus people story. But okay. Yeah, that's truly insightful, that a human connection with your creativity is going to drive a more effective piece of creative. It's like reducing that down to some sort of algorithmic number, like it needs to be 65% more human connectivity, in your creative, and you can do all of that. And just the insights there are sort of like creative equals good, not creative equals bad. And, in a world of AI, what does this mean for creative people? It means that creative people can be measured on effectiveness. And it's like all of them sitting there sort of espousing that with their sunglasses on the yacht of the Vayner X, just sort of just sat with me the wrong way. It was just like, come on, right? Come on, man. I don't need that, right? That's not something that I need in order to What I object to is sort of always trying to reduce creativity down to a science. We are constantly, as marketing, trying to reduce the profession, our approach to solving business problems down to a science. And it's just not. It's just absolutely not. Marketing is and always has been as much art, as much sort of just gut instinct as it is a science that we can do. And both of those sides of our brain have to be engaged. And so any attempt to like reduce that down to some sort of algorithmic way of saying, oh, we're now going to reduce creativity down to these 4 components that have to be present in every piece of creative that we do, just it gives me the ick. So anyway, so go read the article, go download the research, go look at the thing if you want to. I found it not at all.
Nobody's going to do
engaging.
that. After what you just said, nobody's going to look at this article. Nobody's going to download this research.
People may disagree with me. People may disagree. They may say, oh, we have to do this. We have to reduce it down to the human brain science and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but we don't. We really don't. We really don't have to do that. But
people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
That was the perfect movie quote to end that rant on. That is the perfect.
By the way,
quote.
James Earl Jones' best performance, in my opinion, of his wonderful career, was Field of Dreams.
It's such a great movie. And by the way, it's the perfect. Chef's kiss for you for that movie quote to end that on. That's perfect. All right, you've got a long weekend coming up here.
I know this is coming out on the 5th, but we have the parade here, West Park, Cleveland, that we've gone to for the past 15 years or something, and then everybody comes over to our house and we grill out and have fun and do stupid games for the kids and all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. What are you going to the beach?
We're headed up to the beach. Yeah, we're going to get out of the heat. It's been ungodly hot here in Southern California. So we're going to get up to Santa Barbara and hang out at the beach. So just get some coolness and some good cooking in and away from screens and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Molto bene. Working on my Italiano. There you go.
Absolutamente. Okay. All right. Thanks to all of you. I hope you all have a wonderful long weekend. For those of you who celebrate the sort of Independence Day of here in the U.S., and it is a weird time here in the U.S. for sure, but we'll see you again next week with a full show. Let us know. Won't you go to the YouTube channel if you haven't been there or you're not watching it there? Go to the YouTube, give us a comment and basically say, loved the shorter show, hated the shorter show. Want the length back, all of that kind of stuff. I'm recognizing literally as I say this that it wasn't that much shorter. But anyway, we will see you again next week with a regular episode of This Old Marketing at its usual length. But until we see you again, remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.